rocking and rolling here on Metal Titans.
We are metaltitans.com.
With my sweet fireplace and all the metal ingredients that the guy needs.
So we're here in Seattle.
Yeah, man.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Can you tell me about the birth of the new Accept?
Well, I've told the story a gazillion times.
Let's hear it one more time.
Oh, absolutely. It all started about 2 years ago, year and a half. No, actually close to 2 years now, when Peter and I did a jam session near Peter's hometown in Philadelphia, and we invited, because somebody said there's a guy who lives close by whose voice might be perfect for us. Mm-hmm. We invited him over, and but initially it was just to do a jam session. We wanted to play some old songs and have somebody to accompany us on vocals. So we called him over, and that guy was Mark Tornillo. And within a few seconds, it was obvious to us that this guy has an incredible voice, and wouldn't he be perfect for a rebirth of Accept? It kind of, one thing triggered another, and you start thinking, like, because here we always wanted to continue with Accept, but obviously didn't have a singer, and then as soon as we found Mark, we thought, like, here's a chance to get this whole thing going again, and that's what we did. And the rest is, as they say, history.
That's history. So were you actually looking for someone who sounded like the old singer, or someone?
We weren't looking for anybody.
Nothing.
No. We were not. It wasn't even on our radar. But it was just a total coincidence. And as soon as we,
just fell in place,
and we thought, hey, wouldn't it be great to start Accept again? And we called the guys in Germany. We called our management, Gabby, and all the other people, and everybody seemed to like the idea and was right on board, and boom, off we went.
So it's been a few years, 15 years, I believe, that you guys.
It's been more than a few years. So, yeah. So we had, we were all basically semi-retired, or we were all doing music in one shape or form, but nobody was actually thinking about Accept at that point. And but as soon as that came up, and Mark said he was going to do it, and he was on board, we announced it to the world. And funny enough, we didn't have any songs or whatever written, because we didn't think, why write songs if there's no band or no Accept on the horizon. But but it was clear from the get-go that we had to make a new record.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. We started writing new stuff, and that's the result is Blood of the Nations.
Who actually came up with the name
for the album?
Blood of the Nations, yeah.
It was just one of the song titles.
Yeah.
And we struggled quite a bit with the album title, to be honest. We had a collection of good songs. We had great material, more than we needed. We had a truckload of songs, honestly, and we just picked the 14 strongest songs to concentrate on, or the songs that made the cohesive album, pretty much. And but then we went through the song lists, and really Blood of the Nations was the only title that was album title worthy in our mind.
That kind of represented Accept, and
you have to see it in the whole context of what have we done in the past, and what sort of visual album cover could we have with it. And our designer Mark Whittaker came up with the concept of the the bloody hands, and that whole combination seemed to make the most sense to us.
So with the new album, there is some classic sounds, and there are some new sounds on the album. Was this sort of your vision, coming out with?
Didn't really have a vision. We just knew that we wanted to keep it as old school as possible. We knew we didn't want to go different or try any radical changes.
Yeah, create something completely different.
Right. Especially in light of they have a new singer, and they have a guy with Mark who can really do that old catalog perfectly well. We figured, all right, if we write new songs, it better be along the lines of what the fans have heard from us in the past. Didn't really want to do any great experiments and go in a different direction. So we knew we didn't want to do that, but what does that really mean is a different story. That's why it was so good to have Andy Sneap on board as a producer, because he kind of was the judge when it came to the question, well, what is this song? Is it traditional Accept, or is it too far off the course? Of course. So he kind of, was, like I said, was the judge when it was questionable, and he kind of kept us on track with all that stuff because.
Yeah, because Andy's worked with Creator and Arch Enemy and Megadeth and Nevermore.
Right.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you like what he actually brought to the table. You know,
well,
as a producer,
you know, it wasn't.
Right? Did he
honestly,
challenge you guys?
We honestly, one day it had happened like this. One day we got a phone call in the middle of songwriting sessions and stuff, and it was this guy Andy. Or actually it was through a mutual friend who suggested, hey, there's this guy Andy Sneap, he would love to work with you and maybe talk with you about producing the next album. And we didn't really know anything about Andy Sneap, to be honest, but we looked him up online and...
Yeah,
well,
he's
like,
got a long list of...
Well, he's got, you know, a 3 feet long list of names that he's worked with, but that alone didn't really mean that much to us because it was all these bands that weren't any inspiration for us. It was really that newer generation of thrash bands. But what made a difference was the fact that he's really a huge Accept fan. So, you know, he literally as a teenager, his first records were Accept, Restless and Wild, and all this kind of stuff. So he was very familiar with us, and that made all the difference.
And he was probably very excited to work with you.
Well, and he really knew what a fan would expect from us, because he really made the record that he wanted to hear as a fanboy from back in his teenage years, you know what I mean?
Something you can mold.
Yeah, and of course he's a world-class producer and really knows his stuff, so that the whole combination was just perfect.
Nice. So you guys are now with Nuclear Blast Records.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what it's like working with them so far?
So far it's been great. I mean, we really have a perfect team with them. They really did a tremendous job marketing and distributing the record. So far it's going great.
Excellent.
And we'll continue working with them, as far as I know. But what do I know? I'm just a guitar player.
Yeah. So this is your second stop here in the U.S.
Yeah.
Are you sort of noticing a younger audience, older audience?
You know, I'm surprised how much. Well, yeah, it's a bit of both, depending on what day of the week it is and where we are in this country. You know, certain cities we have a lot of young audience. I'm surprised how many teenage kids actually come to the show.
To see
a lot of times. Yeah, because they obviously didn't grow up with us because we had this long break. It seems like, you know, some of them were barely born when we quit in the 90s, you know. So where did that come from? And I think it's just kids, or a lot of teenagers check out what their parents are listening to. It must be that way.
Yeah, and probably some of it is the online stuff.
Right.
It's the file sharing with music. And,
right. But there's definitely more interest from a younger audience than I would have ever expected.
That's great. That's great. So you are seeing some of the older fans.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's definitely also the gray hair and the no hair people. You know, sort of like myself. You know. There's that generation who were, they're maybe now in their 40s and 50s and stuff. They're definitely there, but man, they can still rock and they can still, bang their heads.
Yeah.
So they're enjoying it tremendously, and we are too. We have a very dedicated fan base here, I have to say. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I think, like a lot of people growing up who want to play guitar follow, guys like yourself, because you guys in the 80s were, had a certain sound.
Right.
So I wanted to ask you, what your musical interests are. Like, who do you sort of follow as, inspiration or something that you really dig?
Man, I'm weird because I don't really listen to a lot of other bands or modern music, or I go back to like
what
Judas Priest and Deep Purple, that kind of time frame, or I go away from it altogether and listen to classical music. But I'm not really up to speed on any of the current trends, and most of the modern bands that other normal people listen to. So I'm bad example in that sense. But
so
it's like I always say, just because I'm a painter doesn't mean I have to be current on all the other artists that are out there and get inspiration from all these other painters. And I look at that myself the same way. I write music, but I don't necessarily listen to everybody else. I'm not a consumer of music as much as other people are. So
you also do the photography.
That's right.
So that's another avenue that you sort of have creative vision in.
That's right.
That you might not necessarily follow, but it's something that
Right.
you know,
Yeah, I just happened to
that's your
fall into that.
interest. Yeah.
Happened to fall into that photography thing because photography's always been a passion in my life, an artistic kind of thing.
How long have you been doing it for?
Oh gosh, since early '80s, long time, 30 years pretty much.
You still have some of the old cameras?
Oh yeah. I grew up with film cameras and did that whole thing. And
Pentax and the old.
oh yeah. The Mamiyas and the Hasselblads and all that stuff. And
so you used to developing your own film, dark rooms,
dark rooms, and did that for years and years and years. And of course, about 10 years ago, made the switch to digital. Maybe not even 10 years ago. No, it's more like 7 years ago.
Well, it's so much easier now because you can just delete the file, something that you don't like, delete. But back in the old days, you had a roll of film.
I know it. I've been there, done it, developed my own film and all this for years.
Make a mistake, it's all ruined, so.
Yeah.
Last question. Where did the name Accept come from?
Dude, I don't even know. It was there when I joined the band in '76.
Okay.
The band had been in existence for a number of years before I joined, you know, but it was in the very early stages, I'd say. It was just a few guys getting together, making music, playing some neighborhood bars or whatever you want to call, you know, that, and so I think it came off a record initially. Somebody had a record by the name of Accept.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for doing this interview. Anything you want to say to the fans before we sign off?
Yeah, man, I have to say how exciting it is to be back on stage after all this long break and, you know, traveling the country and meeting all these fans. Fantastic. And like tonight, I'm sure it's going to be a great show again. It's great to see all these people here in Seattle. And, you know,